First life, then change. I'm going to read from Exodus. This is the children of Israel, the Israelites. And it says here, I'm going to read from Exodus 16. And I'm going to start in verse 4. And the reason why I have this desert scenery here in front of us is to kind of let you know that at this particular time they were wandering in the desert. And so this is going to be called Manna in the Wilderness. And so what we're going to do is we're going to see how life can actually change us. Then the Lord said to Moses, I will rain down bread from heaven for you. The people are to go out each day and gather enough for the day. In this way, I will test them and see whether they will follow my instructions. When the Israelites saw it, they said to each other, What is it? For they did not know what it was. Moses said to them, It is the bread the Lord has given you to eat. This is what the Lord has commanded. Everyone is to gather as much as they need. Take an omer for each person you have in your tent. The Israelites did as they were told. Some gathered much, some little. And when they measured it by the omer, the one who gathered much did not have too much, and the one who gathered little did not have too little. Everyone gathered just as much as they needed. And then Moses said to them, No one is to keep any of it until tomorrow. However, some of them paid no attention to Moses. They kept part of it until morning. But it was full of maggots and began to smell, so Moses was angry with them. Each morning, everyone gathered as much as they needed. And when the sun grew hot, it melted away. But in the time the Israelites complained, missing the food to eat they once had when they were slaves. And so we have to remember, they were supplied with manna from God from above, and He rained it down each day, and there was enough, but they only had enough for a day. And so Jesus is enough for today. And so our choice, we have a choice to start out each day with Christ and to walk with Him. And that's how we're going to apply this in today's time as believers in Christ. Now, when they started to complain, the Israelites complained about this bread. The question I have for you, believer in Christ, is do you find yourself saying Christ is not enough for love, acceptance, security, assurance, and commitment? Let's read in Numbers 11, verses 4 through 6. Soon all the Israelites began complaining again. The people said, We want to eat meat. We remember the fish we ate in Egypt. That fish cost us nothing. We also had good vegetables like cucumbers, melons, chives, onions, and garlic. But now we have lost our strength. We never eat anything, only this manna. As a believer in Christ, are we doing just like Israel, the Israelites? Is Jesus enough? And so what we're really looking at here is, if we can apply this in today's life, Israelites were just basically saying Jesus is not enough. And so they missed the idols that they once had when they were slaves. And so that's pliable in our lives today. Is Christ enough? Is the manna enough? And according to the Apostle Paul, the Lord said in 2 Corinthians 12:9, He said, My grace is sufficient for you. And what that means is it's enough. Imagine God saying to you, My son gave his life for you. Is he enough? Remember John 6:33, For the bread of God is the bread that comes down from heaven and gives life to the world. Remember, the Israelites are a lot like us. Sometimes we as believers can forget that Christ is enough. And we have Him living on the inside of us. Colossians 2:10. The Apostle Paul, we have to remember, he is homeless, he is single, he is in prison, and he's singing. And he says this in Colossians 2:10, and you are complete through your union with Christ. And so that's just something we all want to get to the point where we actually experience that. And so as we learn to draw from the life-giving Spirit of Christ today to get everything we need as believers in Christ, remember the enemy is always going to be out there to persuade, entice, and tempt us to return into our old past behaviors. And so a lot of times what this is going to look like is we're going to forget that love and acceptance and security and assurance and commitment is in us, and we're supplied those needs in Christ. And what happens is if we forget that those needs are already met in Christ, it's going to be real easy for the enemy to persuade, entice, and tempt us to pull those needs in from the outside in the flesh. And so choose the Spirit, live through the Spirit today, live from the life-giving Spirit of Christ, and see all of your needs are met in Christ. Remember, you are the most important person here, because without you we could not teach. And remember, life first, then change. Once we get life in Christ, and that is where we're made alive spiritually, that is the grace of God, that life actually starts to change us. And so as we grow in grace together, we want to thank you here from Quality of Life Ministries. Remember, we are learning so we can teach, and we teach so we can learn. Thank you, and God bless.